On December 3rd, 1989, 5-year-old Melissa Brannen disappeared without a trace from a Christmas party in Fairfax, Virginia. Her body has never been found. She has never been officially declared dead, and murder charges have never been filed. What happened to Melissa? Born April 12, 1984, Melissa lived at the Woodside Apartments in Lorton, Virginia, with her single mother, Tammy Brannen, who had divorced Melissa's father when she was just 3. Tammy worked as an accountant to provide for herself and her daughter, and at weekends worked at a jewelry store with her parents, helping with childcare. Tammy's friend, Sally Marquis, revealed, Tammy was a very good mother. She's a very sweet, very caring person who kept to herself. You know, she wasn't what I would call extremely outgoing, although she did participate in just about everything. One of the attractive features of the apartment complex was the active social program for the residents every Friday night, with some sort of social gathering in the clubhouse and during the holidays. There were special events to spend time getting to know their neighbors. On December 3rd, 1989, Melissa and her mother Tammy were attending a Christmas party held in the apartment complex for all the residents. Both mother and daughter were enjoying their time and were having fun. On that freezing December night, around 80 people were in attendance. The party was later described as by local reporter Gail Pennybaker. Everyone was having a very good time. The children played with each other all through the night, and they were going around and sneaking all the food and having a good time. According to Melissa's mother, just as they were about to leave, Melissa wanted to grab some more crisps and ran back inside, while Tammy was standing at the entrance. Tammy stood near the door and observed Melissa taking the crisps from the plate and standing there and eating them. After Tammy finished saying her goodbyes, she looked around for her daughter, who was nowhere to be seen. In a rising panic, Tammy looked for her daughter throughout the clubhouse. They discovered a utility room off the lobby with a private full-length window leading to the outside, which was wide open. Sergeant Michael Spradling, who was one of the first on the scene, would later explain, the window faced a wooden area behind the apartment complex. If somebody could have gone out the window and not been seen by anybody outside, and it's an area where it's secluded, so the inside partygoers wouldn't have seen anybody acting strange. Fairfax County Police searched the entire area. Sergeant Spradling would say, it was very cold out that night. It was pretty imperative that we try to locate her as quickly as possible. It's hard to imagine a young child with a dress on and a small coat surviving temperatures that night. Although no one at the party noticed anything unusual, police feared that Melissa had been abducted. The next day, Tammy Brannen pleaded for her daughter's safe return during a televised news conference. She told reporters, "Whoever took Melissa, I beg you to please call somebody, anybody, and tell us where she is. No matter what's happened, she's all that I have. Please bring her back to me. Melissa, if you can hear Mommy, and you can get to a telephone, call our number like I taught you and call me. I love you and miss you very much." Police could find no trace of 5-year-old Melissa Brannen, despite the help of hundreds of volunteers. Detective William Wilden said, hundreds of police officers were down there, with also hundreds of people from the military bases. People volunteered their airplanes, their helicopters. The search was phenomenal. They just showed up. This case touched so many people. Yellow ribbons were placed throughout the neighborhood as a symbol of concern and hope for Melissa's safe return. Police, volunteers, and over 300 military personnel quickly mobilized into a search effort for Melissa. They distributed 35,000 flyers and 10,000 bumper stickers in the area. Several local movie theaters previewed a home video of Melissa singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, in the hope someone would recognize her. Police questioned Melissa's father, who was in Texas on the night of Melissa's disappearance. He was immediately ruled out as a suspect, and also made a public plea for Melissa's safe return. Police questioned everyone who lived in the apartment complex, as well as all of the employees. In addition to search efforts, investigators also posted a $100,000 reward in hopes of finding Melissa, but the search efforts failed to locate the child. Tammy Brannen begged, "She's all that I have. Melissa, if you can get to a telephone, please dial our number like I've taught you to and call home. We love and miss you very much. Please come back to us. Mommy's waiting." Out of the 80-plus guests at the party on the night of Melissa's disappearance, police were able to quickly narrow down their suspect. Apartments maintenance worker Caleb Hughes became the prime suspect that very night through witness accounts from those who were in attendance. Multiple statements reported that Hughes made crude sexual propositions to them during the party. Others that Hughes had given unusual levels of attention towards the children at the party, including Melissa. He was also reported to have left the party around the time that Melissa went missing. Caleb Hughes was recently married and in his mid-20s at the time of Melissa's disappearance. Hughes lived just under 8 miles away and had been working at the complex as a handyman for just 3 weeks before the party and eventual abduction. Hughes had a criminal record for harboring runaway girls in the late 80s and was convicted of contributing to the delinquency of a minor in late 1987. Police visited his apartment during the same night, where Hughes' wife cooperated with police. However, investigators weren't able to find him until 1 a.m. the next morning. Whilst Hughes told police that he left the party about 10 p.m., he could not explain why it took him nearly 3 hours to return to his Prince William County home, just 7.9 miles away. Detective Wilden asked Hughes where he had been since leaving the party and was told, "I drove straight home tonight. I only stopped off for a 6-pack of beer, and when I got home it was about 12:30 a.m. Investigators knew they stopped selling beer in Virginia at midnight. So what was he lying about? Where was he? It was immediately noted by police that Caleb wasn't wearing the same clothes that he was described by partygoers as wearing just hours earlier. The officers checked the washing machine and discovered that they were all recently washed, which included his leather belt, knife holder, and shoes. When asked why he had washed his clothes right after coming home, he responded that those were the only good clothes he had. He further said that he had to wear the same clothes to work the next day, so he washed them right away. Any trace evidence that might have been on his clothes was gone. When speaking on the events of that night, Detective Wilden revealed, "We knew he knew more than he was telling. I told him, 'I think you took Melissa from the party.' He just sat there looking at me and finally, he just said, 'Prove it.'" The investigators checked Caleb's car to see if he had any clues that could link him to Melissa. Crime scene analyst Jim Grogan revealed it was cluttered with a lot of debris, a lot of dirt, bags of books, dog hair. I just looked at it and thought, holy mackerel, how am I going to be able to find any type of evidence to tie Melissa to the car? The car was sprayed with the chemical luminol, which lights up when it comes into contact with the hemoglobin component of blood. The luminol revealed blood on the steering wheel, foot pedals, and floor mat. The blood was collected for DNA analysis, but the results were inconclusive. They did, however, manage to get fibers from the car seat, which were sent back to Special Agent Doug Diedrich of the FBI for analysis. Agent Diedrich explained, "The first thing I do is look at the tapings that came from the front seat of the car. I try to identify what type of materials are there, and if possible, anything that may have come from the victim if she had been in that car." Agent Diedrich discovered quite a bit of animal hair in the car, most of it dog hair, but 3 of the hairs from Hughes' front seat were different. They were rabbit hair that had been dyed black. The rabbit hairs were microscopically similar to a German rabbit hair coat Tammy Brannen wore to the Christmas party. Prosecutor Robert Horn explained, when Tammy Brannen was leaving the apartment, she told Melissa to get her fur coat. Melissa got the fur coat, and as a child will do, she draped that coat across her shoulders. And of course, those hairs from the coat transferred to her. Diedrich also discovered blue and red fibers on Hughes' front passenger seat. The red fibers were cotton and an extremely common fiber, but the blue fibers were extremely rare. The 50 blue fibers were man-made and acrylic. They were all the same shape, length, and diameter, which indicated they were from the same manufacturer. Gas chromatography revealed that the blue fibers were dyed with the same blue dye, but the chemical composition of the blue dye was unusual. Melissa Brannen was wearing a blue sweater and a red plaid skirt on the night she disappeared. Melissa was wearing a big bird from Sesame Street top that her grandmother had given her as a gift, but when asked, could not recall where she had purchased it from. Prosecutors knew that without a body, they needed more evidence than the 3 rabbit hairs from Tammy Brannen's coat found in Caleb Hughes' car in order to prove Melissa was in it at the time of her disappearance. Prosecutors knew that any defense attorney worth their weight would argue that Caleb Hughes could have brushed up against Tammy Brannen's coat at the party and then transferred those rabbit hairs onto the seat of his car. Agent Diedrich was convinced that the blue fibers held the key to Melissa Brannen's disappearance, but there was no way to tell if the fibers were from Melissa's clothing. After work, one night Agent Diedrich shared his frustration with his wife. He told her he needed to find the manufacturer of the outfit Melissa was wearing at the Christmas party. Agent Diedrich revealed, "I told her that it was some sort of blue sweater with a Sesame Street character on the outfit with a red plaid skirt." Mrs. Diedrich had a range of store catalogs hidden away and instantly knew that if it was Sesame Street, then it was likely to be sold by the department store J.C. Penney. Agent Diedrich added, She proceeded to bring a catalog down from the year before, and sure enough, on page 11 of that catalog, it was an outfit that looked darn close to what they were describing to me as the one Melissa Brannen wore the night of her disappearance. Detective showed the picture from the catalog to Melissa's grandmother, and she identified it as the one she had given Melissa. The FBI asked JCPenney to provide them with one of the Big Bird outfits in order to analyze the fibers, but they were sold out. The item was a catalog only from JCPenney sold, but it had sold out in a matter of months. In a stroke of luck, JCPenney located a customer in Kentucky who had purchased one of these outfits a year earlier. The customer bought the outfit as a present for his granddaughter, but it was the wrong size, so it had never been worn. The customer sent the outfit to the FBI for analysis. Agent Diedrich said, "The idea of just being able to find an outfit that's exactly the same outfit that a victim wore in a case, that's an extremely good stroke of luck." Then when Agent Diedrich examined the outfit, he made a startling discovery. He revealed, when JCPenney had this outfit manufactured, they wanted to make it unique, so instead of using a standard dye, and there are 10,000 of them, JCPenney decided to create a brand new color. Textile expert Christopher Pastor explained, JCPenney specifies a particular color, then they work with the dye manufacturers to find some combination of chemicals that will produce exactly that tone in this particular case. They went into additional steps and made sure that it was a dye that nobody else had access to, so that they could trademark the sweater from its color point of view. They called their new color Plum Navy number 887. JCPenney patented that signature dye and used it only once when they produced the 7,000 Big Bird sweaters. When Agent Diedrich compared the fibers from the duplicate sweater to those found in Hughes' automobile, they were the same. Pastor added, with several 100 million people in the country and only 7,000 sweaters, the probability of that particular sweater being located in the individual's car is very small. You can just work out the ratios of the two. Agent Diedrich said, "There's no question in my mind that Melissa Brannen had been in the front seat of Caleb Hughes' car. Where she went from there, well, I guess that's a mystery. A mystery police were desperately trying to solve." Though Virginia law does not require a body to charge someone with murder, prosecutors are required to identify where the murder took place. Since the blood in Caleb Hughes' automobile could not be identified as Melissa's, prosecutors could not reach the threshold of homicide. Without this, Hughes was only able to be charged with kidnapping, which carried a maximum sentence of just 10 years. Prosecutors were convinced, however, that the blue and red fibers from Caleb Hughes' car indicated more than kidnapping. Prosecutor Horan said, "The last Tammy Brannen saw of her daughter, she was wearing a pink nylon winter coat over top of this Big Bird outfit. If the child remained in that winter coat in the automobile, you wouldn't have the collection or the population of blue acrylic fibers that were found on the seat, because they'd be inside the nylon coat. They weren't." Prosecutors believe that Hughes removed Melissa's jacket in the car, which they believe indicated that Hughes committed a sex act. Prosecutor Horan added, "Hughes had the child's coat off in the automobile, and it seems to me there are legitimate inferences in the intent to defile." The fiber evidence was pivotal, as prosecutors were able to argue that there was no innocent reason to remove the girl's coat in the car, and thus leave the dress fibers. Caleb Hughes was convicted of kidnapping with the intent to defile on March 8, 1991. He was sentenced to 50 years imprisonment at the recommendation of the jury. One jury member would later tell the media they chose 50 years because they figured at 50 years, his sex desire was over with. As if Tammy hadn't experienced enough, she also became the victim of a cruel hoax. Two men in their mid-20s said they were holding Melissa and would release her for $75,000 in ransom. An FBI agent posing as Tammy Brannen handed the money to a courier, whom they subsequently followed to an apartment shared by Emmett Muriel Greer III and Anthony McCrae. The two were charged in 1991 with extortion. Greer received a prison sentence of almost 4 years, and McCrae, who allegedly masterminded the hoax, received 7 years. Authorities believe they had nothing to do with Melissa's disappearance, however, and that Hughes acted alone as the kidnapper. After Caleb was jailed, Tammy attempted to contact him in a desperate attempt to find out what had happened to her daughter. Tammy was able to speak to Hughes once and briefly, and would later say of the communication, "He did not deny taking my daughter, but he did not confirm it," she said. "I told him I knew he had taken my daughter. All I wanted to know is where she was. At one point I thought he was going to tell me, but he didn't." In 2019, on the 30th anniversary of Melissa's abduction, Fairfax police said they are renewing their efforts to find answers for the family. They released new photos of Melissa and her abductor, which they hope will jog memories. Investigators are looking to speak with anyone who may have known or had contact with Caleb Hughes on or around the time of her disappearance. Our detectives are committed to pursuing all new leads and examining the evidence with emerging technology, Fairfax police said in a news release. The Fairfax police never cease to amaze me with their dedication to this case, said Tammy Brannen, Melissa's mother. What they're doing and what they've done all along. They've never stopped. Tammy's pain has remained constant. It becomes part of a fabric of your life. I miss my daughter every day. It's been 30 years, but that doesn't stop me from missing her. There's the not knowing if she suffered, not knowing where she is. What would she have become? What grandkids would I have now? All of these things I wonder about, at least periodically. Melissa's mother still hangs a Christmas stocking for Melissa each year, still makes her birthday cake every April 13th. She still dreams of seeing her daughter again one day. I think about her all the time. I still see her as 5 years old. I would offer him anything to tell me what happened to my daughter, she said of Hughes. That is the hardest part, the nights, what your imagination can conjure up. Tammy Brannen decided not to have Melissa declared dead, holding on to hope that her daughter is still alive. She worked with Melissa's father to create an age-progressed image of her daughter alongside the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Tammy would later go on to become a volunteer at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, working to help other children who are or have been missing and their families. Tammy has since gone back to school and completed an MBA. She also has since remarried and uses her husband's last name, but still lists her phone under Brannen, so that Melissa can one day find her again. When Caleb Hughes' release date was nearing, prosecutors from Fairfax approached Virginia state officials, asking them to consider placing Hughes under an indefinite civil commitment, which is used to keep violent sex offenders who the state deem as likely to reoffend in confined treatment after their criminal sentences are served without the need for additional charges. But after a review by Virginia's Corrections and Behavioral Health Departments and the Attorney General's office, no petition for civil commitment was filed. Tammy said she was told that Hughes did not meet the criteria for such commitment. Caleb Hughes was released from prison on parole, and Caleb Daniel Hughes was released on August 2, 2019, having served 29 years of his 54-year sentence. The 53-year-old is now a registered sex offender and living in a halfway house in Lynchburg, Virginia. Hughes, now 53, has maintained his innocence. After his conviction in 1991, Peter Greenspun, his lawyer, said, Caleb Hughes denies he abducted with any intent Melissa Brannen. He denies he killed her, disposed of her, or harmed her in any way. When he was released, Greenspun said that Hughes still stands by that comment. Melissa Brannen is still missing. She would be 31 years old now. If you have any information concerning this case, please contact Fairfax County Sheriff's Department on 703-246-7800 or Federal Bureau of Investigation on 202-324-3000 or email findmelissabrannen@yahoo.com.